Today, some wedding photography video tips for your first wedding.
Keep waving. It's good stuff, man.
Welcome back to the 30 days of wedding photography videos. It is almost the end of the month, and I'm here today to talk to you about your first wedding video. So this is maybe outside of the scope of when we began this. It was definitely wedding photography only. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about the benefits of offering hybrid photo video coverage. And the brief of that was essentially that it allowed me to be more creative and tell the story of the wedding in a better day. It made me a better photographer. It also increased how much money all of my couples are spending with me, and also increased, at the end of the day, client happiness, that when you're in control of both photos and videos, all of a sudden you can now create an amazing package experience at the end of the wedding day that really lets them relive the wedding day, which as a photographer I could kind of do, but now with audio and video, moving pictures and moving emotions and slowed down a little bit so they can see kind of the in-between emotions even, all of a sudden you're creating a much better product overall. So those are the reasons that I started doing hybrid photo video. These 30 days of wedding photography videos, all sponsored by Focal. So if you're interested in getting in on the Focal waitlist, you have to do it before the end of the month. And they built out my brand new website. They did the back end, you can send contracts. You can keep all of your life organized back there, both for weddings as well as if you're doing commercial shoots, you're doing family shoots. There's an availability calendar. You can do mini sessions. There's just so much functionality in that website. And if you sign up in the month of January, so if you're just on the wait list only, you only have to be on the wait list, you actually save the $935 USD setup fee. So what they'll do is they'll actually have a call with you. They have professional copywriters. They will write in your voice. You can change anything you want, but in my experience, everything was pretty bang on to exactly what I would have wanted to build. And to just have a final website done for you is just amazing. It definitely far exceeded expectations that I had on the website. So get on that before the end of January if you want to save that $935. In February, you're going to have to spend the $935 US if you want the same thing. So get in on January. Today, we're talking about tips for wedding videos and a few of the tips that I have. So this is all from the perspective of a hybrid photo / video creator. And if you are doing that, or I think if you're doing any sort of wedding video, I think number one is always to have some sort of expectation set with the client that they know exactly what they're going to expect and exactly what you're going to deliver. In photography, I feel like you're there to do the photography thing, and that's fine. That's pretty obvious. That fits within a box. I understand that. My couples understand that. The hours that I'm there, I'm going to be taking pictures. When it comes to video, there are some additionals that people may secretly expect because they saw an example of it, but it's not included in their package. So make sure packages are very clear. For me specifically, in the base level package that just comes with the normal video, there's no audio in it. So I'm not capturing audio from speeches. I'm definitely not doing a ceremony camera that's capturing the entire ceremony or speeches. That's in the additional package above it. So I want to make sure that my couples are very aware of that difference between those packages, because if they've just watched an example of one of the package number one videos and they've booked me for something else that's not going to include audio, it is very important that they understand that. Otherwise, you're going to show up to the wedding day and you're not going to capture something like audio, or you're not going to capture the full ceremony or speeches or something that they're expecting. So make sure that you are very specific with what you are going to be delivering to them. Number two, definitely with photography, there's obviously a lot of gear that you would want to bring. With video, there's even more gear that you could potentially bring. I have found that I am the best as a video creator when I have the minimum amount of gear with me, not necessarily underprepared, but when I have two camera bodies with me, usually I have one with a 35mm lens and one with an 85, and I am very happy to capture an entire day with that. That doesn't weigh me down too much, that I'm not bringing light stands from location to location to location, that I can actually get some of the transition shots of people walking and moving, which is kind of what I like to capture in my videos. So you definitely don't need as much gear as you think you need, and definitely I would say I'm much more on the minimal side of things, and the more I go into my career, the more minimal I seem to be getting. Next year, only going to be shooting with an 85. No, that's not true. Next up, if you are going to be doing rolling coverage of the ceremony or speeches, is to have a backup for that. So if you have one camera up, definitely have two cameras up, or if you've offered them a 3-camera kind of setup, definitely have an additional camera up just in case something is to happen. This is especially important if you are still doing hybrid coverage and you have a tripod up that's recording something and you're out getting the photos that you need. To have a backup of that is really, really important. And then I guess this goes into the next point. The next point is audio. So have backups of audio, obviously, but also have audio going into something that is independent of those video sources. So you have a third-party audio, whether it's a Zoom recorder or a Tascam lav mic, just something independent of those cameras to make sure that you are capturing the audio that you need. Or there's even kind of like these little Tascam boxes that you can put underneath your camera that can record everything to an SD card as well as pipe it into your camera. Backups of backups of backups. Speaking of audio, I guess what we use. So we use the three things that we use. So if I'm doing video, I'll have this Rode Video Mic Pro. There's a lot of different variations of this. I find them all to be roughly similar, at least in a wedding day environment. This is the Rode Video Mic Pro. This is the one you have to turn off and on. The Pro Plus just turns off and on with your camera. But we've discovered that when your camera goes to sleep, sometimes it doesn't wake up. So I prefer to be in control of the on-off switch myself. So that's just up on your camera. Also, I'll use this if I'm there to do video and I've only been hired to do video and there's another photography team. I'll have that on my camera just to kind of signify that I'm the video person, even though if I'm not necessarily doing any of the audio from the day or whatever it might be. It's just kind of one of those visual signals. Maybe bring a monopod or something too. I don't know. I just don't like the struggle is that during the family photo section of the day when people are kind of looking at your camera and you're doing video and they're not looking at the photographer. So I want to make it very apparent what I'm doing. Audio number 2, this Zoom recorder. I would say an H4n, H5, which is what this is, H6, depending on how many channels you need. I'm fine, I would say, with this. So I run these room mics, as well as usually I'll get a board feed from if they're doing speeches or ceremony into one of these. And I do both of those kind of at the same time. That's what this can do. H4n can do that too. H6 gives you 2 more XLR ins on each side. So if you want to do a podcast at the wedding, maybe grab an H6. And then next up, the Tascam DR10L. These also come in white too. So if you want to try to hide one on a bride, I've discovered that it's very difficult to ever do that. And I don't. What I do use this for is typically during a ceremony. And it's usually as a backup so if they have a handheld mic, one, it's kind of annoying because sometimes the signal goes out and you get kind of shoddy audio and it's not your fault, but you have to deliver bad audio, which is not ideal. To be able to go back to this feed is awesome. Also, what I've noticed is that sometimes for vows, whoever's officiating just leaves and it's like, yeah, you guys do your vows now, and there's no microphone. So you have to have something kind of in that scene so that you're able to have audio from that. I usually put this, if it's a bridegroom wedding, I'll usually have this on the groom, and I'll also have one on the officiant as well. And I'll also be capturing the board feed, and I'll also be using this to capture ambient audio as well, or room audio as well. So I kind of have 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 audio sources if I do need to switch to one or whatever it might be, just to be able to mix in post. Next up is to know what kind of video you're making. So for me, I know I'm going in that I'm making a chronological music video style. If I was doing something that I needed audio and I know that I was going non-linear, that I would open with like a piece of the speech and then I would jump to the ceremony and then it would be back to getting ready. And I wanted to tell the story in a way like that. A few other kind of things pop up that I now know that I need to capture maybe a lot more B-roll that I would not necessarily need if it was just that straight 3-minute highlight. All of a sudden I need a lot more footage to step up to that minute mark. And that's one of the reasons why I shy away from doing that 10 or 15 or 20 minute style feature cut because of how much video you need to be able to create. At that point, I definitely do recommend to my couple to like hire a video team if you're that serious about video, that people do need to be dedicated to that in order to produce a project that would meet their expectations kind of at that level. That as one person, you can't just hire me to come in and do a 20-minute video and also all your photography coverage. Or I guess you could, but expectations, I feel like I wouldn't quite meet them, whereas I'd rather over deliver and really wow them than coming up a little bit short. A few more tips here. If your camera can record video to 2 different cards, so this Canon R6 can, any of the Sony cameras I think can, any of the Canon cameras can. Nikon, you're usually only recording to whatever your main card is, I think. I don't know if there's any Nikon cameras that do both, but it is something that I very, very, very much like to have, and one of the key reasons why I actually ended up going over to Canon from Nikon. If you are shooting on a camera that only has one, or you're only writing to one card slot, I usually do my best to kind of use 2 cameras in that environment. So I know that at least if this camera fails, I have footage from this one. You could also do things like backup footage throughout the day so that you know after each of the key moments that you have everything backed up. Or you could even potentially be backing up to your phone if you want, just so that you do have a backup whenever you're recording. It's just, I don't know, like anxiety wise, as we've talked about in this video, that I have like 7 different backup audio sources. So to shoot everything on one card as a main camera just stresses me out. Next up, I handhold all of my footage. So I'm just holding it. Like all of these lenses are incredible on a lot of the mirrorless systems. If you have IBIS, there's a pretty good chance that you can handhold pretty much anything within reason. I will use my 85 a lot handheld, and it does not have stabilization in it. It's the Samyang. 85, and I can handle this very, very easily. The 28 to 70 f2, I used a little bit as well. And also just like, I would say the weight of that makes it a lot more stable for you. For specifically my style that I'm not doing any follow shots with steady cams or anything like that. I am just simply essentially kind of being a photojournalist with the moments that I'm capturing. I find it completely fine to do handheld, and I've never really, I find that gear almost gets in the way. Obviously for ceremony shots, you're going to want cameras up on tripods, but for most of the day, I am, at least with my main camera, I am always handheld, which helps keep me as light as possible, and I can get over to moments if I see them happening. And being handheld also allows me to be a lot more lightweight and attract less attention in general as well. So I can actually capture those candid moments, and people can forget that I'm there capturing video a little bit quicker. Now the last tip, it might sound like the stupidest tip you've ever heard in your life, but it was the hardest one for me when doing hybrid coverage. I was a wedding photographer for so long that the hardest part of doing hybrid coverage in the beginning was simply remembering to make video clips. That I would fall back into the wedding photographer mindset, and I'd be like, oh crap, I didn't get any exterior videos, and I'd have to go back outside and do that. So make sure that you like put a note on your camera or something the first couple of weddings, because it literally is a thing that you will, if you're a seasoned wedding photographer, that you will actually forget to record video clips. So make sure it's always constant in your mind, or maybe for the first couple of weddings, bring someone that's dedicated specifically for video, just to make sure that somebody is there to help out and cover you so you can meet those client expectations. That is all for today. Don't forget to sign up for your Focal website before the end of the month. January 31st, this offer is gone. You will have to then spend $935 USD, which is a lot of money. So get in on that wait list now. If you're on the wait list, you will save that money, and they're releasing spots incrementally for the actual websites. It's a small team over there, and they're, as I said, building everything custom for you. So it does take a little bit of time, and they want to make your website quick. So they're doing a certain number of slots at a time, and they will let you know over email when those slots are released, and jump on them and get your website done and have a tremendous start to your wedding photography season. That's all for today. I will see you again tomorrow. Don't forget to turn the bell on, and I'll see you at the same time every day.